If you have term insurance for your mortgage or just to cover your life, you need to take a minute to watch this video. You made a responsible and smart decision to protect yourself in the event that you died early and left your family with mortgage debt, or maybe car loans or credit card debt, or maybe even student loans. So congratulations on making a really smart financial decision to protect your family from an untimely death. And that's exactly what term insurance is intended to do. But I have a question for you. What if you live? That's right. What if you live, but you've suffered a heart attack, a stroke, or you've been diagnosed with some kind of internal cancer? You might even have disability insurance, but for that, you have to demonstrate that you can't work for a period of time due to the illness or injury. You might have long-term care insurance, but in order to collect on long-term care insurance, you must be unable to perform 2 out of 6 activities of daily living. Things like bathing and dressing and getting in and out of a bed or a chair on your own, toileting, eating, and so forth. Or you have to be cognitively impaired such that you can't be alone without supervision. Here's the problem. Any one of these serious medical problems, like a heart attack or a stroke or cancer, could put you almost in the same boat financially as if you had died. But now you're alive and you have to deal with the financial fallout on top of your illness. Think it can't or won't happen to you? Then I strongly urge you to watch the attached interview I did recently with a married couple who are friends of mine. Maria was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer, and Mark suffered a serious stroke just recently. Hi, I'm Phil Gallant, president of the Optimus Group, and this is a story you really do need to hear. If Mark and Maria had the right kind of term life insurance with living benefits, at least they wouldn't be in the same situation that they find themselves today, financially in trouble. In fact, they would not be worrying about money at all and could focus solely on getting well. Listen to their story. It's heartbreaking, it's gut-wrenching. But they tell it because they want everyone to know that at least the financial side of this can be fixed with the right kind of term insurance. For the price of a night out to dinner each month, you can plug a serious hole in your financial plan. If you have term life insurance already, chances are you still don't have the right kind. We want to help you fix that as soon as possible. Listen to Mark and Maria's story, and unlike them who could not buy this product many years ago because it simply didn't exist, let us know if you want to be prepared for what life has to throw against you, especially financially. We can help. Take the time to watch this video. It might be the best thing you've ever done to prepare your family financially for a disaster, one that until now you could only hope wouldn't happen to you. But if it does, at least you'll know there is a solution. So, Maria and Mark, this is a tough interview for me to do because you're my friends, and just to give folks an idea, Mark and I knew each other many years ago. You guys moved to Houston, and you were in town recently. Mark calls me and says, "Hey, I'm in town." My first thought was, "Oh, let's get together for lunch and play golf." And Mark tells me that you recently had a stroke, and I knew, of course, Maria, you were going through some struggles. So we're doing this because there's lots of folks out there that need to hear a message, and they need to hear this message because we go through life thinking things happen to everybody else. And this happened to the two of you, and it happened to both of you. This is a kind of unique, I think. And so, there are ways for folks to plan financially if this happens that they're probably unaware of. And we want people to understand the importance of that kind of protection, but we want it to come from folks who could have really benefited from having this. And unfortunately, you didn't. It wasn't available when you were living up here in New York. We would have certainly talked about it, but to just let our viewers understand what's happened here is Maria was diagnosed with cancer 5 years ago, I believe it was.
4 years ago.
4 years ago. And Mark had a stroke last year, and you guys are in your 50s and living life. And then all of a sudden, everything turns upside down. So it's a story that I think folks need to hear and understand that you need to prepare for this type of event. So Maria, I'd like to start with you because 4 years ago you were diagnosed with breast cancer,
Right.
and I just wanted to see if you could kind of walk us through what that was like, what happened, how were you told, and just kind of let people know what happened.
Sure, sure. Yeah, Phil, it came out of left field. We were coming out of COVID and, COVID, everything was shut down and, there was no testings going on, no well visits and all that type of stuff. But anyway, it was May of 2021. And I remember just wanting to get my well visit on the books before my daughter was going to be home, for the summer. We were going to get busy and doing fun, exciting things. So we thought, went for my well visit. My nurse practitioner, just, routine, found a lump. And she's like, what's this? And I'm like, I have no idea. What could it be? Totally last thing on my mind, breast cancer. We have a family history of colon cancer on my mom's side and inflammatory bowel disease. So I've always been, concerned more about my gut and my gastro issues. Last thing on my mind. And I've always been diligent over the years about mammos, just, a very good patient. I go, but of course got behind due to COVID. So she said, well, it's probably nothing. It's probably a cyst, but we have to be thorough. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, of course. So, of course, I was a little taken back, Phil, but I had zero family history of breast cancer. Zero. So I was like, it's probably a cyst. I'm not going to panic. Everything's going to be okay. So, next thing you know, I get in for my mammo, my ultrasound, and I was just waiting to just be let go. It was a Friday afternoon. I was excited to start the weekend. Mark and I had plans. And I was stopped dead in my tracks when the radiologist said, oh, this doesn't look good. And I don't know about you, Phil, but I've had scans and stuff in the past, and usually they can't say anything. But
Right.
what I learned after is the doctor who reads mammo and ultrasound of the breast, they're actually a doctor that reads it right then and there. So unfortunately, I had one who had very poor bedside manner and told me, oh, this doesn't look good. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she said, oh, there's like a 90% chance. And I said, 90% chance of what? Yeah, I had no idea what she could be talking about. And I know it sounds silly, but I didn't think you can find cancer on an ultrasound like that. So she said to me, there's a 90% chance that it's cancer. And I was laying there on the table and I just was frozen. And I said, wait a minute, how can you tell just from looking at a screen? Don't you need to do like testing, like a biopsy, something further? She said, oh, of course, we'll be doing that, but it doesn't look good. And I was startled. I was shaking. And I said, can we talk about this? Is there somewhere we can go and talk? Because my husband's in the waiting room. And she was so abrupt with me. She said, there's nothing to talk about. We have to do further testing. And I said, that's it? You're telling me I have a 90% chance of cancer and this is it. So with that, I had to pull myself together after I broke down in tears and I was shaking. And actually one of the techs came in and put her arm around me. She was very sweet. And I was shaking and she said, oh, don't worry. So many women survive breast cancer. And I'm like, how are we even having this conversation when I have not really truly been diagnosed? What is this? So I cry, I shake, pull myself together because I want to be strong for Mark. I go out there and I said, we have to get out of here. We have to go somewhere to talk. So I tell him, and he was just as shocked as me. And next thing you know, we were facing appointments of biopsies and doctor's appointments and, further testing.
How old were you at that time, Maria?
So I was 50. I hadn't even turned 51. Yeah,
Wow.
50 years old.
So you and Mark are sitting there or standing there or whatever in the waiting room
Yeah.
after this diagnosis. And what was that how'd you feel about it, Mark? I mean, what was that conversation like?
Um, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I didn't know what to think. Was just uh This is the aphasia that I have. I can think of the words, but I can't make them come out.
Right.
I was
You're going to
scared
get to your story in a minute as to
to
why
death.
that's going on.
Right.
I I was scared to death for Maria, much like a man uh presented with a situation. We have a problem. How do we get rid of it? Let's go.
Yeah.
And that was it.
So your initial thought was we got to fix it, like most guys would do.
Yes, we got to fix it.
So from there, Maria, you went for the biopsy, and what happened moving forward?
So my doctor called me and I knew when the number popped up, like, because we were awaiting when I would find the results. And I just knew, I knew something bad was coming because he was calling. And he called me to say, do you have a few minutes? And I said, absolutely. And he explained to me that I had been diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was a very aggressive type. He wanted to prepare me that it was invasive ductal carcinoma. I had no idea what that meant. Essentially, what it meant was he told me it's an aggressive type, it's angry, it wants to spread. And that scared me terribly.
God.
And he said, but I want you to know that there's been so much progress over the years, and we need to get you the best care now. So he was wonderful. He led me to who he thought would be the best, and I did my research and my homework. I just pulled up my sleeves and I knew I needed to get to the best place. I did go to 2 other places, but I knew in my heart I needed to get to MD Anderson, which is all they do is cancer. That's it.
And that's in Houston,
It's
right?
in Houston. Yeah,
Where you live,
actually,
yeah.
very lucky, literally 30 minutes from where we live. It's in the med center right downtown. I even have a few doctors that I'm close with here, and I called to get their opinion, and they're with a different hospital, and they said, you need to go there. So thank God I did, because to be honest with you, the first and second place I went, they diagnosed me as stage 2. And staging is very important because that's how they plan your treatment, right? Then I found out when I went to MD Anderson, I went for my testing.
Phil, I have to go to the bathroom.
Go ahead. Keep going. That's fine. That's fine. Keep going.
So thank goodness I went to MD Anderson, and they told me, they said, look, you're going to have 1 day of full testing, and then next day you meet the team. And the minute they heard, and I actually got a live person, Phil, every time on the phone there, it was no leave a message, we'll call you back. It was, I mean, they're a well-oiled machine, right? This is all they do, and they know how to prioritize. So long story short, they said, look, we gather all your testing from everywhere else, but we do our own. I'm like, oh, and I had already gone through some painful biopsies. I'm like, really? Do I have to? They're like, absolutely, because we know how to find it. Other people know how to see it, but we know how to find it. Okay. So that was profound. So thank goodness we did, because they did a biopsy that morning. They found something suspicious. They did a biopsy and it was stat. So the doctor had to come in and tell me, Mrs. Ham, I'm sorry, but it has traveled to your lymph nodes. So not only was it in my breast, but now it is in the lymph nodes. Once it's in the lymph nodes, it wants to be on the move and travel through the body and be aggressive, this type of cancer. So I was devastated. I laid there on the surgical table, just tears running down my face because I didn't know what to think. I felt like I just kept getting bad news. It wasn't a cyst. It was cancer. It's an aggressive cancer. And oh, it's not stage 2, it's stage 3B. And I felt like it was getting worse and scarier. And I just was laying there like just frail, weak. And I said to the doctor, she was amazingly sweet, talk about excellent bedside manner. I said to her, look, I said, I need someone to go tell my husband because I don't know what to tell him. So she did. She said, absolutely, I will go out and speak with him. And thankfully, that was the week that they were allowing family members to go in with you because it was opening from COVID. So prior to that week, other cancer patients had to just go through these things by themselves without family members.
Oh,
Can you imagine? So I was really lucky that, oh my goodness, my husband got to be in the waiting area. So she went out there to explain to him. The next day we met with my team. My team was a oncologist, surgeon, and radiation oncologist. So this was all new for us. We had never faced cancer before. And they came in and each introduced themselves and said in what order they were going to speak to me because of my plan. And I couldn't imagine what I was facing, but I had heard from my doctor who diagnosed me and gave me, he said, he prepared me, this is going to be a marathon. It's not a sprint. And little funny story, I was never a marathon runner. I always liked sprints when I when I ran in high school. Anyway, I was like, no, I don't like marathons. So they prepared me that what I was looking at was a very aggressive cancer. The very worst is called inflammatory breast cancer. I had the second worst, which is called triple negative breast cancer. And the reason for that is it has nothing to do with hormones. It's completely unrelated. They have no idea what causes it. They've been doing research on it for years. It has nothing to do with hormones in a woman's body. So what they explained to me was it doesn't even respond, and I quickly found out that there are like over 20 different kinds of breast cancers. I never knew that. And then I quickly found out that it doesn't matter about your family history. So I would love to do a campaign to explain to people, especially women, that yes, of course, it's important to know your family history, but you don't have to have cancer in your family history to be diagnosed. As a matter of fact, with the type I had, triple negative breast cancer, 80% of women get it where there's no family history.
Wow.
And it is aggressive. It's on the move. So I, of course, wanted them do the surgery, get rid of the tumor, get rid of it, and then I'll do whatever you need me to do. Because I'm that person, like, let's get this done, let's go. And they're like, sorry, it doesn't work that way. By the time we actually do the surgery and remove it, the cancer would have spread throughout your body. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? That's how aggressive it is. The cells just want to multiply on the move. So I said, well, what do we do? And then that's where they explained, we have to be very aggressive. We have to treat you with the strongest, harshest chemo on the market. It's been around since the 1960s. And here I'm thinking, wait a minute, I'm at MD Anderson, the most renowned, hospital. All they do is specialize in cancer, but for triple negative breast cancer, it's still the gold standard, is this very harsh chemo. The nickname is called Red Devil. And the reason for that is because it's actually red. It has the most horrific side effects you can imagine. And they all happened to me. They prepared me that my hair would fall out. And Phil, I didn't care. I was like, I don't care. I don't care. Get rid of the cancer. I don't care about my hair. Just get rid of the cancer. Hit the pause button until my hair fell out. Then that was a whole nother thing I went through. You know what I'm saying? That was traumatic. So getting back to my diagnosis, my doctor said, we have to be aggressive. And I said, okay, so, how does this work? So this very harsh chemo I was going to be on, it was going to be once a week, every 2 weeks, 4 treatments. So 4 treatments over 2 months, right? And I was like, oh, okay, no problem. And then after that, it's going to be a different type of chemo once a week for 12 weeks. And I'm like, why? I couldn't imagine. And he explained that they're going to be very aggressive. And then whatever is kind of like maybe possibly minuscule things that they can't, see or find, that this other chemo, the Taxol, would get rid of. So then I was like, okay, so I figured we had a plan. Okay. I was frozen in my tracks when he said, you know, it's very aggressive. We have to prepare you. You should think about a clinical trial. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Isn't the chemo going to work? He said, well, what I can explain to you is this treatment is the gold standard for what you have. However, there's no guarantee. And I'm like, wait a minute, we're going to do this horrific, terrible, harsh chemo, and we don't know that it's going to work. And he said, correct. I'm dealing with, we are with the most renowned specialists in cancer. And I was like, can I die from this? I know it sounds so naive, but I mean, you don't think this could ever happen to you, Phil. Never.
Wow, yes.
I said, can I die from this? And he looked at me with the most endearing eyes, because it was mask time with COVID, and said, I have to prepare you that this can take your life. So I looked over at Mark and he looked at me, and it was like the night we met, our eyes just like locked, you know? So I said to him, well, what's my plan B? I need a plan B. He said, that's the clinical trial. And what that means is, if this doesn't work, we can try this. I'm like, is it experimental? And he said, well, it's worked on some people, it hasn't worked on others, but it's your plan B, and that's all we have left. Yeah. So I said, okay, what do I have to do? Sign me up. So I had to do further testing, which was a lot. It was my body was starting its physical taxing journey with all the testing they had to do. But you know, I will be honest with you, and I came home that day and we were devastated, and I just went in my room and I closed the door and I got on my knees and I had a conversation with God. Okay, I'm not afraid to die. I'm not, but I'm not ready to leave my family. Please give me time. Please heal me. And I've heard during my whole faith journey that when something is too big, you have to give it to God. And I realized that this cancer was bigger than the doctors, the treatment. I had to give it to God.
Unbelievable. What was your, when you got to that stage, Mark? I mean, here's your wife just being told this, and at the same time, as guys, we want to, like you said earlier, we want to fix it. We want to pull some tool out of our tool bag and make it all go away. And I can just imagine how your thoughts must have been racing. Now, for our viewers, I did say this in the introduction, but Mark suffered a stroke. So if it may take a little time for him to get this out, but Mark, what was that like for you? I mean, hearing your wife tell you that she was just told by the doctor, this could take your life. I mean, what's that like?
In my background, I have the United States Army. And United States Army taught me in Ranger School, all you can do sometimes is put your head down and go. And that's what I did. I just kicked into Army mode, second lieutenant, put my head down and go. That's all. That's all I did.
So, Maria, you went through how much chemo and how much radiation? How long was the whole journey there?
Yeah, it was very long. So I went through a total of 5 months of chemo. Then when I was as weak and frail as could be, preparing for surgery, I caught COVID. And if you remember the first strain, yeah. And we did everything in our power to not get it, right? So Of course I got it, and it took a toll on me, and I was really scared. Is the cancer gonna start growing again, before my surgery? But the good news was, and my oncologist really calmed me, who I give him so many praises. He was an amazing doctor. I still see him for checkups. That, the testing I had, Phil, I never had to do that clinical trial because halfway through my treatment, they found when they did the testing, the MRIs, that my tumor shrunk 87%.
Oh my God, that's so amazing.
Right. So and that was right before my son was going to be leaving for college. So he felt like he could leave with the good news. And, so we were in a good place knowing it was working, but it did take a toll still physically, emotionally, but thank God we knew it was working. So then I had to face surgery, and it was about a 4-hour surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thankfully I was a candidate for a lumpectomy, and they took out the lymph nodes, and I was recovering from the surgery, and my surgeon called me one day when I was recovering. I was about a week out, and to be honest with you, it was a really dark, rainy day, and I was just in this pit of illness and sickness. And like I tell people, it was the cancer wasn't making me sick, it was the treatment. You know what I'm saying? Like, I never felt sick until I had all the medicine to kill this thing that is a silent killer in your body, right? So she called me with the great news of, Mrs. Ham, I want to tell you that there's no evidence of disease. And I said, wait a minute. I was actually sitting right here at my kitchen table. I said, wait a minute. What do you mean? Does that mean there's no cancer in me? She said, that's what I'm saying. She said, Mrs. Ham, I rarely get to make these phone calls, and when I do, they bring me so much joy because I'm so happy to tell you that you are cancer free. And I'm like, well, I don't have to do the radiation now, right? But I did, because essentially that kind of seals the deal. Like, you put something in an envelope and you can't mail it without sealing it, right? So so that was the most amazing. That was January of 2022. And then I had to face the radiation, and I went in all strong, and it was tough, I'll tell you. I was like, if I did 5 months of chemo, I can do 6 weeks of radiation, because I'm kind of like polypositive. That's me. But I'll tell you, it wore me down. But at the end, I got to ring the bell. And ironically, it was on April 15th, 2022. It was our wedding anniversary. And it was our wedding anniversary, and it was Good Friday. So it had really special meaning.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was deemed cancer free, and I'm actually 3 years out. And with the type I had, because there's all different types, like I said, with the type that I had, it's very angry and nasty and wants to come back in the first 3 years, possibly 5 years. But the longer I go out, it diminishes my chances of it coming back. Where other types of breast cancers, the longer you go out, the chances are greater of it returning. So right now, thankfully, thanks be to God, I'm in a good place.
No one would ever know, and isn't that the truth?
No, and I've been having a lot of fun with my hair. I've been letting it grow, because I'll tell you, I can show you before and after pictures, right, Mark?
Yeah.
He had to help me.
Yeah.
He had to help me cut it was terrible. But anyway, I had no hair, which means no eyebrows, no eyelashes. I mean, you wouldn't recognize me. So I am back to better than ever.
That's great. You were not working at the time, right?
Correct. But ironically, Phil, I was not working, but I had just got hired. I was looking to go back into the workforce, but I was a stay-at-home mom for many, many years. And I actually was just hired at a preschool at our church. And I was really excited. I was going to be, a teacher's assistant, and I got trained. And then before I could even start, I had to call and tell them, I'm sorry, I can't start. I got diagnosed with cancer.
Oh my God.
So our world was put upside down. And just to hit the pause button, at the time, we we were preparing, the market was really good and we were packing up our house and we were gonna move and we were looking, so everything stopped. Everything was frozen. We had to deal with this monster.
So you go through the radiation that finishes on April 15th of 2023,
2022.
22. And then another storm comes. And let's talk about what happened in your life, Mark, and what you're dealing with now. And um, just give me what happened. I mean, what was the event? How did you had a stroke? And when did how long ago was that?
Well, it's just about a year. It was June 28th of last year.
2 days from now is
2 days from
anniversary,
now.
29, yeah,
Um,
2024.
um,
It was a Saturday.
yeah, it was a Saturday, and it came out of nowhere. Um, I think I had a hemorrhagic stroke.
He did. He had a hemorrhagic stroke, which we didn't know what that was until it happened.
Um, um, I went down. I don't remember the hospital for the first 2 weeks. Um, I was in ICU for how many days?
Well, actually, luckily you were in ICU for 24 hours by the grace of God because the bleeding stopped.
Yeah, the bleed. I had essentially a brain bleed, and the bleeding stopped within 24 hours. If it continued, they would have had to open my head and just give the brain bleed room to stop, time to stop. If that had happened, I probably wouldn't have made it. By the grace of God, the hemorrhaging did stop, and I was
You had the
there.
hospital, that first hospital for a week before you got
Yeah,
transferred.
I got transferred out
After a week
after a week, and
to an in rehab. Yeah.
it, to an in rehab hospital. And I just went from there. There was a hurricane the first weekend I was in there.
Oh,
Hurricane Barrel. I stayed over with him.
I went down the last part of June, and I don't remember. I can't tell you what happened, what part of the year, but I can't. I didn't come out of it until October 1st.
so you're not able to really do the Army Ranger thing with this because it's you this time, right? And
Yeah. And if I could think of a thing that would have made this okay, it would have been to be financially set, which we are not. If I could have had some type of clause in my policy that included injury or illness, it would have been fine. We could see how this could financially destroy somebody. And that rider would help to prevent that.
so let's talk about that a little bit. I appreciate you bringing that up. So one of the things that we want to do as we share this is, you know, the housing market has boomed for many, many years, and housing prices have gone up. And here in New York, they continue to rise. They've risen to really levels where a lot of younger folks can't even afford a starter home anymore. I know in Houston, my stepson lives in Houston, and prices of homes there are not cheap. Here in upstate New York, where I live, and you're from, the prices just keep going up and up and up and up. So we had a conversation when the two of you were here, and I made you aware of the fact that this is the first thing as a financial guy. The first question, other than, wanting you guys to be physically okay and be able to enjoy the rest of your life, the financial burden that this, that a cancer diagnosis brings to a family is devastating enough. But here we have two of you, not yet 60 years old, and one of you a cancer survivor, and Mark, you're working through getting better from suffering from a stroke. And you see on television all the time these firms that are pitching real cheap term insurance, and life insurance is one of the most amazing financial tools that was ever invented. And it's constantly been getting better and improved to the point where now the first thing that came to my mind, and I asked this of you guys, not knowing how are you doing financially, and it's been a struggle, is what you've told me. And it's always one of those. One of the things that I talk about with people is how many times would you have made a different decision if you could say, if I only knew then what I know now, right? Because a lot of times we think we made a mistake, but we didn't make a mistake. We just lacked the knowledge of what we could do. So a lot of people are attracted to term life insurance because it's less expensive. It's usually purchased in case someone dies. Most often, when people buy a new home or refinance their home, they'll buy life insurance to make sure if one of them passes away, the home is paid for, and so the beneficiary gets a big check and they pay off the mortgage. And it's been around for years and years, but there are companies now, one in particular, I'm not going to get into specific companies during this conversation, but there are companies now that include a what's called an accelerated death benefit rider on their life insurance policies. So accelerated means they pay benefits before you actually die for things like this: a stroke, a heart attack, open heart surgery, cancer, um, Lou Gehrig's disease. There's a number of conditions that these policies will cover. And years ago, you're very blessed that up till now you've had a good job and everything, but right now you're struggling financially, and you
Yes.
unfortunately don't have this coverage. So I just want to walk through a hypothetical just so the viewers can understand how very powerful this would be. So what year did you buy this house that you're sitting in right now?
2013.
So that was 12 years ago, and you would have been how old back then?
47.
And Maria, you would have been 12 years ago, you would
42. I had to
42.
think about it for a second.
So 47-year-old, 42-year-old, what was your life like? I mean, were you having fun and living your life and doing
Yeah,
stuff?
we had two young boys, and we had a girl that was a baby.
Yeah,
We were, aren't-
we still have them,
Yeah.
thankfully.
But they were younger. I think that's the point Mark's
They were
trying to
younger.
make.
Yeah,
yeah,
I know. I'm
they
just making a joke. Yeah,
they were younger. We were on top of the world.
yeah. We moved here for a great opportunity for Mark. He was with GE in upstate New York, and he was going to be either like transferred to Chicago or, gosh, Atlanta, was it? So my brother lived down here, and he was telling us you really need to think about Houston because there's just amazing opportunities here. So next thing you know, Mark found a great opportunity within GE to come down here, and they paid for our move, and it was a fresh start, new beginning, and scary. The kids were, crying and they were a mess, but it was the best thing we did. They absolutely love it. At the time, our oldest was 10. Our second we have two boys and a little girl. So our oldest was 10, he turned 11 here. Our other son was 9, turned 10 here. And Alex, the baby, she was 10 months old. So she considers herself a Texan,
Yeah.
but they have grown. I mean, they're now 22, 21, and 12. They absolutely love it here. They can't imagine living anywhere else. So it was, with all the crazy we're going through, all the illness we've had, the financial struggles we've had, they are very happy that they are here. What we miss in upstate New York are the people, not
Mhm.
the area. No offense, Phil, but
No, I'm with you.
So
I'm
yeah,
with
so
you.
things were great. We were enrolled the kids in school, and the boys, we got them on their baseball teams and their activities, and
Yeah,
it was great. We were making new friends, and
we were, like I said before, we were on top of the world.
And so I got to ask you this question. Did you buy life insurance for your mortgage?
No,
Okay. You don't have to expound on that. Um, so here we are, as a young family, you're thriving, you're living in Houston, and you're probably thinking more about retirement than anything else. And um, probably nobody came to you and said, "Hey, if you get sick, that you got a plan for that, and we have a solution." And if they did, my guess is you would have said, "Ah, we're doing great, we're fine." I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I hear that all the time, right? That I don't
Mhm.
plan. I have people say to me, "I don't plan on dying." Well, nobody plans on dying, right? But we all know people who have gone through something like the two of you are going through, except that it's usually one or the other. Here, you guys are in a situation where you went through a serious cancer diagnosis and treatment, Maria, and Mark, you're still working through the stroke issue. So let me just paint a scenario. If I had wandered into your house and said, "Listen, I think you really need to look at this policy," and I don't know what you don't need to disclose the value of your house or anything, but with a young family um, and one breadwinner at the time, I would have, as a financial person, said, "We need to insure you for your human life value." So your human life value is you take your earnings and you multiply it by 12, 10 to 12, and that's how much life insurance an insurance company would be willing to offer you. So let's say, and then Maria, you say, "Well, I wasn't making any money, but your human life value as a full-time mother is equal to somebody working outside the home." So you're both, I would have strongly been saying, you both need $1 million of life insurance. And I'm going to just guess at that level, you were healthy at the time. I knew you back then, you good, healthy guy, you former Marine or Army person. I didn't know you well, Maria, but you were healthy and life was thriving. I certainly knew your mom, Maria, and know her. But I would have said, "Look, you need $1 million each." So let's say you said, "Okay, we'll do it," and maybe it would have cost, I'm going to guess, $100 a month each for a 30-year $1 million term policy. But I would have made sure that I included on that policy a chronic illness and critical illness rider. I would have used a company that has a critical and chronic illness rider. And what that means is that should something like this happen, and if it had happened, it did happen to you guys, here's the conversation we would have had. You're paying this $1 million policy, and you call me and say, "Maria just got diagnosed with stage 3 cancer." Well, what the insurance companies do is they get all the medical records and they underwrite from the other side. They say, what's the life expectancy now? And they make an offer to you. "Look, you've got $1 million of insurance. We will today advance," and let's say it was 70% of the death benefit while you're alive. So on Maria's diagnosis and confirmation of the level, let's say that came out to $700,000 tax-free, deposited into your account, and they probably would have left you with maybe a $50,000 death benefit, even though you took most of it while you're alive. And then Mark, when you had your stroke, and it wasn't, I mean, it was a serious stroke. let's say it was the same level 3, because there's different levels. And I don't know what they would have done, because that's, you leave that up to the company and the underwriter. But one of the companies we use has videos on their website about people who have gone through this and what the company's done. But let's say they would have given you also 700,000 in advance, tax-free. So between the two of you, you'd be looking at $1.4 million that would have been deposited tax-free into your accounts when these horrible things happened. Where would you be sitting now financially?
We would be sitting with no problem at all
Financially.
financially.
I mean, you could have,
Yeah,
and the company doesn't say you got to use the money to pay off your mortgage. You got to use the money, to do whatever. You could use it for income. You could have said, when we get better, we're going to take a month-long cruise around the world, and they don't have any say in that, because it's a death benefit that is paid while you're alive for these exact situations, to help make sure that the financial side of your life was the last thing you ever had to worry about. Now, I've
Yeah.
been in the life insurance industry for 45 years, and this was certainly not available for most of those years. But as you know, Mark, I spent 20 years of my career, 10 at the executive level at John Hancock and New York Life as the head of distribution, marketing and distribution for their long-term care insurance, right?
Yes.
And then I spent 10 years with a insurance brokerage agency as executive vice president in charge of training and agent development for long-term care insurance. Long-term care insurance would not have paid a nickel in either circumstance, because you can still bathe and dress and
Yes.
transfer and feed yourself and use the bathroom, and incontinence. Although for long-term care, you have to fail in 2 out of 6 activities of daily living. These policies also include, some of them, a long-term care rider, some of them a chronic illness rider, which is essentially to pay for that type of care. But my own father, who died of esophageal cancer in 2001, was being cared for every day for 7 months by my mom, but he could bathe and dress and get out of, long-term care insurance would have paid nothing, but this insurance. And up until your story, I can't interview my father because he died 7 months after he was diagnosed, 24 years ago now. Because I know what this would have done to change their world, not even with $1 million, with $100,000 policy or $200,000 policy. My mom had to stop working to care for him, and so on. Imagine the financial piece of this puzzle being solved instantaneously because you made a smart decision to pay for a policy that had this type of coverage. So what's your advice to people? Because we obviously want to share this video with people who are considering purchasing life insurance, particularly for mortgage protection, for young families. If you're sending a child to college and you're taking on debt and you want to make sure that debt's resolved if something happens to you. Well, what about if you have cancer or a stroke, and you got $1.4 million, which would be quite unusual in your situation, because each of you would have had a claim that would have paid for college, probably paid off your mortgage, probably been able to put money in a immediate annuity to essentially create a pension for you with huge tax benefits. What would you say to somebody who's watching this? I mean, your story is so powerful from a health perspective and on a family impact perspective. But what would you say now that you're on the other side of the coin, you're struggling financially, and what would you say to people about this? I mean, how hard of a decision should that be?
It should be a very simple decision. Everybody gets old. I'm 59. Maria's 54.
Mhm.
I think as you age, you're gonna come into these situations. People that are in their late 30s, early 40s, they're still on that invincible mode. But that's gonna come to an end. Eventually, you're gonna end up in my situation. Eventually, you're gonna end up in hers. If this insurance was offered to me prior to my stroke, prior to her diagnosis, we would have bought it hands down. And that is because eventually we're flesh and bone. Flesh and bone gets old. It gets tired. And eventually you're gonna have these hurdles to get over.
Right. Because everybody dies of something, right? I'm 68, I'll be 68 in a couple of months, which is hard to believe. That's how old my father was when he died. And I just went to the doctor this morning for my physical, and you know, she said, "You're ugly." She said, "You're good." I said, "I want a second opinion." She said, "Okay, you're ugly too." But no, she told me I was, everything looks good, but I had some blood work. And I've always said to people, it's, you're one doctor's visit away from your life turning upside down. That's exactly
That's
what happened to
exactly
you.
it. That's
Absolutely.
Right?
exactly
With
it.
one doctor's appointment from your life going from wonderful to, oh my God, am I going to
Yes,
Yes,
survive this?
yes.
yes.
And I've
And
always avoided going to the doctor because I don't want to know. God's sake. But Amy, who works here, is like, I'll take any test. She's always worried about her health, right? It's really cute, but that's smart. I'm a stubborn guy, and I go every 2 years for physical, and I try and take care of myself. But you don't know what's around the corner. When you're young and you have a family and you're dealing with life, somebody like me walks in and says, I recommend that you do this. People are, it's not going to happen to me. I hear it all the time. Or I want the cheapest I can get. Yeah, it doesn't have that critical illness and chronic illness stuff. And by the way, the company I work with the most doesn't charge extra to have that as part of the policy. There's no
wow,
extra fee. Their rates
Wow.
are slightly higher, but they don't charge for that rider. The reason
wow,
is because it is a death benefit that they're just paying in advance, right? So term insurance is the most profitable insurance for most insurance companies. And there's a study that was done years ago at the University of Pennsylvania, and I don't know what the numbers are now, but for years the stat was 1% of people who have term insurance die while the insurance is in force. Now you have 10-year policies, 20-year policies, 30-year policies, and they are convertible to all kinds of other types of coverage, and you can bring those riders along with it. So we had a long chat when you guys were here. Maria, you were going to go back to work looking for work somewhere, but you've been a stay-at-home mom.
mm,
So your resume is not going to compete with somebody who's been in the workforce
yes.
until they meet you, because I'd hire you tomorrow
Thank
uh,
you.
to work in my operation. But
Yeah,
the truth is, you can't lean on work experience at this point in your life, right? And
correct.
Mark, you're in a position where you've got to find a way to make money. So we've asked you guys to join our firm as representatives to tell this story and to help people plan for this type of thing. Living too long is something everybody worries about. If you think about your 401k at work and you put in, the maximum now is in the $20,000, $25,000 range, maybe up to 30,000 depending on your age, right? We put all of this money into retirement, retirement, retirement. Well, if you carve out a little piece of what you're putting into retirement so that if something happens to you before that, you're still solid, you're still good. That just makes all the financial sense in the world to me. And I've
Me
always
too.
loved what I do because, when bad things happen to people, people die, people get sick, people, have long-term care issues, whatever. if I've done my job for my client, I show up with the money. I bring the money. I don't bring the bill.
Yeah.
And you were, Maria in particular, when I told you about this, you were incredibly passionate about, I want to do this. So talk about how you want to help people
Oh,
avoid this
absolutely.
mess.
Well, you know, someone once told me there's purpose in the pain, right? And I'm here for a reason, and hopefully it's to help others. And if there's an avenue to help others with the trauma that we've gone through, I mean, not only have we gone through serious life-threatening traumas, but we've gone through financial upheaval and trauma. And compounding all of that, by the grace of God, we're still here to talk to you, and you've been kind enough to talk to us about this. And I was so excited a few weeks back when I said to you, wait a minute, Phil, is this something I could do? Because I have so much life left in me, and I have gifts and talents, and one of them is communication. And if someone can benefit from the trauma that we have gone through, financially, emotionally, mentally, physically, I mean, my goodness, then it was somehow all worth it if we could help someone else, because this has been horrible. And I'm here to say, like, I mean, my husband had a wonderful job, a beautiful career. He earned, you know, very well. But, you know, along the way, some maybe decisions were made that were not the best, but he was trying to provide and also create this lovely lifestyle for his family. So his intentions were amazing. But maybe there were some bad decisions along the way that we could have discussed in greater detail, and we didn't. And life just keeps passing. You cannot stop the hand of time. It just keeps going. And if you're not prepared for the unexpected, if you don't have funds for a rainy day, the storms are going to come, and it's going to be really, really hard. So if there's a way that our disaster could help someone, I'm all for it. I want to help someone. And you know, people, oh, their careers, and they went to college and they make all this money. Well, if you're not investing it wisely or putting it somewhere, or have this plan B, like I had a plan B with my cancer, I guess what I'm trying to say is this is an amazing plan B.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be better to live your life and all that fun with the kids, and just kind of knowing, like, if something terrible happened, a diagnosis or an unexpected death or some chronic illness, like you said, the stroke, the heart attack, the cancer diagnosis, my goodness, to know that there's the emotional part of that trauma is so devastating. The last thing you want to deal with is the financial
Yes.
trauma. But then when that's compounded, well, I
Yeah.
mean, money isn't everything, okay? Money is a tool. Money
Yes.
never bring you happiness. It just makes life a little bit easier.
Right.
So if we had had something like this, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. Right? We would be in a good situation. The financial piece would be off our backs, and I could then now be paying. There's some great out-of-pocket programs for him that he could be in with this aphasia that right now we can't afford. So we're still doing what insurance will help us with and cover us with, but we can't do those additional specialized programs right now that insurance won't cover because we can't.
Yeah,
So,
this is really taking the bull by the horns. This kind of planning is taking the bull by the horns and saying, look, I hope this never happens to me. But if it does, at least I know that the financial piece of it is going to come together, and we're not going to worry about that. Unfortunately, you went through cancer, you're recovering from a stroke, and now you've got financial issues. And so for everybody watching this video, I just want you to know that Mark and Maria are are working with our firm. They're getting prepared to work with our firm to be paid to offer life insurance to you who decide, I want to meet them, I want to talk to them, and I want to buy my insurance from somebody who is not talking from left field, but who has gone through it and who is able to tell you what it's really like when this kind of thing happens, to tell you what it's really like when you get that horrible news, what it's really like when you've had a stroke and you're in ICU. And I know as a guy, and I'm not going to get into this much with you, Mark, because it's hard, but I know that I would be going, oh my God, I hope my family is going to be okay financially. And did I do my best to make sure that that was the case? And
Yes.
for anybody who has life insurance, check your policy. Ask
Exactly.
your agent, is this included? And if it isn't, we can replace it with one that is. It's going to cost you more money because you're older. And you got to do this before these things happen.
Mm.
If you're out there saying, well, why don't they just buy one now? Well, you can't buy fire insurance after the house burns down. You've
Mm.
got to do it while you're healthy enough to qualify for it. I work with a lot of successful business owners in my practice, and they are all about this type of protection. So if you're thinking about buying life insurance of any kind, it is imperative, in my opinion, and I think Mark and Maria will agree with me, that this be part of your plan, that all the bases get covered. Now, it's not disability insurance, right? It is critical illness and chronic illness insurance, but we also offer disability income protection. But at the same time, having something like this, think about what you could be disabled from. These are the things most of the time. I mean, an accident is an accident. And some of these policies even have critical injury coverage if you have a brain injury, if you have severe burns. There's some accidental conditions that are also covered on this. And I'm just telling you this, on term insurance, just to be transparent, if you pay $1,000 a year for term insurance, the agent selling you that policy is not making maybe $400 or $500 to write that policy. And there's a lot of work involved in doing it. My office is going to be Mark and Maria's back office. My mission is to help lots of people because Mark and Maria have been kind enough to tell their story, a real life story. So none of you who ring the bell here or click on the Tell Me More button are going to change our lives by buying term insurance from us. We're not gonna get super rich. Our goal is to change yours, to help you sleep better at night, know that you've done your very best so that you're not in the same position financially that these wonderful people find themselves. We're on a mission to help Mark and Maria make lemonade out of lemons. That's kind of the slogan that I've said to them. They are working as we record this on getting their licensing in place, and they will be able to write insurance in more than just the state of Texas. We'll probably start there. But my firm, the Optimus Group, located here in upstate New York, we're licensed almost everywhere, and it's easy enough to get licensed in your state if we're not licensed there. And my mission is to help these folks dig out of the financial mess that this has caused. And their mission is to help you never face it. So I hope this video has been worth the time that you've taken to watch it. These are good people. These are people who have poured their heart and soul into living a good life and doing the right things. And fate had a different uh, path for them. And one way to deal with that is to crawl in a hole. Another one is to say, who can I help as a result of this? Whose life can I help change? I've said to Mark and Maria, and I've always believed this about what I do, My legacy will be the generations of people I'll never meet who are getting death benefits from when their folks die, who are not confined to a nursing home that they can't afford, because I've written a lot of long-term care insurance, who have retirement plans that work because we do retirement income planning, who have an investment portfolio that somebody cares about and is watching for them. This is about the most basic financial decision you could ever make. Do I have the right kind of life insurance? And because I just heard a story that has made me sit up and take notice that there's a way to fix this. And I would love for you to do two things. Number one is to protect your family properly by making sure, whether it's with us or not, making sure you have this kind of coverage. And number two, if you work with these wonderful people, you're also going to be contributing to them being able to build back a better life. So thank you for watching this video. Feel free to email us. Feel free to let us know what your needs are. And Mark and Maria will be working with you, as will I and my team here at the Optimus Group. Guys, thank you so much for this amazing time we've spent together. I hope to see you both a lot. My stepson lives in Houston, so I'm sure we'll be down there to visit soon. And I'd rather spend time with you guys. So I'll give you a call.
Bill, we can't thank you enough for your interest, your support, your encouragement. It's meant everything during this really difficult time.
well,
Yes, thank you.
let's make lemonade out of these lemons.
Gallons of it.
And by that I mean let's help as many people as we possibly can.
Exactly. This is what we want to do. It's what's on our heart. If that was the purpose in all of this, then it's all good, you know?
Yes.
Okay, guys, we will see you soon. And thanks for doing this.
You're
Absolutely.
welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Take care, Phil.